Oh, perfect. Okay, good. All right. So I'm going to start with the first chapter. Again, this book is called When Hip Hop Met Poetry. It recently earned an award. It's called the In the Margins Award. And it's basically for young people who've experienced homelessness, who've gone through some trauma, experienced violence, just really have gone through a lot of difficult, experiences. And so this book has been released to all of the libraries. If you want to check out the book at the library, you can always, your streaming is lagging. Okay. Darn. Sorry that your streaming is lagging. Dang. But we're actually, that book is available at the library. So, for example, if you wanted to go and pick it up, and if you want to request it, if it's not there, then you can just let them know that you want to get the book and they'll be able to order it for you. But it is available in every bookstore. It's also available on Amazon and on Barnes & Noble and on my website, www.honeytreepublishingus.com. Okay. So I'll start off with the first chapter, and then from there, I'm going to move straight into the part 2. Most of the time, I don't read this particular section of the book. But today, you all are going to get a special treat. You all are going to hear it. Also, just letting you all know, the world premiere of the short film is actually going to be available and released tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay. Which is Kentucky time, Detroit time. So if you're, logging in from another state, just double check to see how that converts into your time zone. So, all right, When Hip Hop Met Poetry, it's a story about Rashad and Genesis. It's a true story about their love and how their love became very cautionary. It became a very difficult experience. And so that's what this story really highlights. When Hip Hop Met Poetry, an Urban Love Story by Tatiana. True story. We were a real life Romeo and Juliet. Bonnie and Clyde even. The whole world was against us, but we were inseparable. We were in love. That crazy kind of love too. Real talk, we were the poster children of bad boy from the streets meets good girl from school. And the story, well, it's definitely one to remember. I'm going to back up and sit on my couch, okay? So, get comfortable because I know y'all are comfortable. Okay. Hope y'all got something good to eat. If my cat shows up, okay, I have a cat. If she shows up, that's who is here, okay? All right. The heat from the Sunday morning sun was like a furnace in my grandma's rust-colored 4-door BMW. We sat parked on the side of the street as Grandma finished our Marlboro Light cigarette. We were headed to church but took a detour to my cousin Robert's new apartment where he lived with his girlfriend Monique and their newborn son. I was always excited to go to church, so I wore my favorite outfit, a white shirt, blue jean overalls, and matching cap that hooked into one of my belt loops. As we sat in the car, the suffocating temperature was unbearable. I couldn't wait to open the door. My mind wandered into the street as beads of sweat streamed down my face like raindrops. Gazing out the windshield, the heat wave made squiggly lines and ripples across the houses and cars. When we get out the car, make sure you lock that door, baby, explained Grandma in a soft and serious tone. She didn't notice I was melting in the passenger seat beside her, but I was spending time with Grandma, and anytime I was with Grandma, I didn't complain. We were thick as thieves. Okay, Grandma, I responded, wiping my forehead with the back of my hand. I knew what she meant by those words. We were in the hood, and even though we were from there, we could never be too safe. Grandma turned off the engine and strung-lipped her cigarette that quickly became a yellow nub. Slowly inhaling a cloud of smoke filled the car and floated out the windows. The cigarette sat between two scissored fingers that held a long ash that only a chain smoker had the skills to make. That kind of ash doesn't have the courage to drop on its own. She took a final drag, tapped both fingers together, thumped the ash out the window and exhaled. We rolled up the windows with a black knob that turned like a wheel, locked the doors, and headed out the car. As soon as we arrived at the front steps, the door swung open. Hey, Mama, greeted Cousin Robert. He hugged and kissed Grandma on the cheek before turning to me. What's up, Applehead? He grabbed me playfully for a hug and planted a hard kiss on my forehead. After entering the living room, Grandma and Cousin Robert walked to the back of the apartment while I sat on the couch to watch a TV show until my attention was pulled to loud voices coming from outside. When I reached over to the window to draw the curtain back, I saw 3 teenage boys walking in the street. 2 of the boys wore oversized white tees and baggy denim jeans that sagged to show their boxers. The third boy wore the same sagging jeans but with a black hoodie. Watching from the window, one of the boys noticed me, made a joke that I couldn't hear, laughed with one of the other boys and slapped hands. The third boy shook his head with a half smile, did a special goodbye handshake, and walked up the front steps to my cousin's apartment. I hurried to pull the curtain closed and sat back against the couch before he walked through the front door. He walked into the living room, wide-legged, knees slightly bent and hands deep in his pockets. The hood from his sweatshirt covered his eyes. I could barely see his face as he passed by me on the couch. No words, no acknowledgement. All the boys our age wore designer cornrows, do-rags, and throwback jerseys, but his style of walk told me that he didn't follow the trend. He lived in his own world and by his own rules. Reaching over to a nearby table, he picked up a video game controller and plopped down on a separate couch to play GameCube. The simple jingle from the game was the only noise in the room until Grandma peeked around the corner to check on me. "You okay in there, baby?" Grandma peered into the living room from the kitchen. She must have heard the door open. Grandma didn't miss nothing. "I'm okay, Grandma," I quickly replied to put her mind at ease. "All right," she said, eyeing the boy suspiciously before returning to her conversation. We sat in the same living room on 2 different couches with silence between us. The boy didn't look up once, but I watched him carefully. His oversized black clothes, the way he slouched on the couch, and the intensity in his sad, almond-shaped eyes. I wanted to know him, but the feeling and interest didn't seem mutual. I was invisible. Grandma must have sensed how I was feeling when she said, "Come in here and play a game with us, Cuppy." I had a lot of nicknames, but Cuppy, short for Cupcake, was my favorite. It felt good to be included after being overlooked. We played the board game Trouble at the kitchen table. It was me, Grandma, and Monique. But when Grandma and my cousin broke away to talk in a different room, I couldn't wait to ask Monique a question. "Who's that boy in the living room?" "Oh, that's my brother Rashad," she answered dryly. "He's staying with us for a little while." I wonder why he was staying with them and not at home with his mama. I turned around in my chair to get a better look at him. He looked like he was around my age, but a little older. He reminded me of one of those bad boys from a thug movie that I wasn't allowed to watch, or an urban novel that I wasn't allowed to read. While Grandma and Cousin Robert talked, Rashad joined us in the kitchen, but only looked at and spoke with his sister. They played the board game while I secretly admired him. Rashad was medium-sized, stocky built with brown skin and a tough exterior. Just by the way he looked and talked, I could tell he wasn't from my world. He was from the streets. After the game, Monique and I went into her bedroom to check on her sleeping baby. I couldn't wait to tell her how I felt about her brother. "He's cute," I shyly confessed. I couldn't contain myself and keep a secret. I was a giddy 13-year-old girl, a new teenager with a crush. I mean, I had little crushes in the past, but nothing like this. I never told someone that I liked a boy. It was always the other way around. Monique looked at me in shock. "Rashad?" I nodded quickly with a smile. The surprise in her eyes softened and her lips shifted into a slight grin. The newness of the feeling lingered in the air until Grandma said it was time for us to leave. "Not yet, Grandma," I thought. I didn't want to go. My stomach was queasy and my hands were achy from being nervous. Forget the flood of butterflies in my stomach. I had an army of grasshoppers jumping in the pit of my gut. The feeling was new and overwhelming. I wanted to feel it all day, but when it was time to go, it was time to go. And I knew better not to question Grandma when she was ready to go. As we walked back into the living room, hugged and headed toward the front door, Rashad sat on the couch and went back to how he was earlier, silent. But I had a plan. Typically, when I ignored boys, it made them pay me more attention. So I acted like I didn't care that Rashad wasn't looking at me and ignored him. But he still didn't pay me no mind. Walking closer to the front door to leave, I wanted him to notice me, to look up, to show some kind of interest, but he didn't. When we got into the car and headed for church, I couldn't stop thinking about him. He's so different, I thought. I hoped to see him again soon, but little did I know I wouldn't see him again until 1 year later, not until the next summer break. So that is the first chapter of When Hip Hop Met Poetry. And actually have a few other chapters, selected chapters that I've read from Tuesday that's on my YouTube channel. So if you just check out YouTube, you'll be able to see and hear some of the other chapters that I read on Tuesday. So I'm going to actually skip through to part 2. Okay. Part 2 of the book. Okay. So there's a lot that happens in between the time. We lose contact. We see each other. Thank you, Larry George. I appreciate it. We lose contact. We pretty much don't communicate because Sorry, I had something that came up. We didn't communicate because at the time we didn't have cell phones. We were teenagers, and back then it was very rare to have a cell phone. Okay, it's a luxury now. It was a luxury back then, but it was really a luxury back then. So we didn't stay in contact. That's what happened. So I ended up liking somebody else. He wasn't in school, Rashad wasn't in school at the time. So I was going to high school, and that's when I met somebody else and I started talking to him, but it was just puppy love. And then I went back to Rashad. So this is, I've skipped through. I'm going to go to one particular chapter where I actually start to really like Rashad even more, and then that's going to lead into part 2. Okay, and it's gonna the movie and the book and the song, it all shifts to talk about different experiences that teenagers typically go through. So, for example, for me, it was, searching for my identity, searching for who I was, going through some different difficult experiences with my mom at the time. We were struggling with our relationship. And then also just, with Rashad's relationship, it started to become very, very violent and tumultuous. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start with Shadows in the School. All it took was one text message conversation, and we were back talking like nothing ever happened. I was in the 10th grade when we made it official as girlfriend and boyfriend. Since I was still not allowed to even talk to boys, Rashad and I had to sneak to do everything, and we were really good at it too. Summers off from school, winter break, during school hours, after school hours, Saturdays, we always found a way to be together. We mastered the art of sneaking. One particular day, I waited for Mama to pick me up from the old school building where I attended a youth program. That was where we met in secret. Everyone had left the building for the day except for me and a security guard who monitored the building. Mama was always late picking me up between customers in the salon, but that was okay. The extra time made it easier for me and Rashad to see each other and be together. Rashad often walked more than 10 blocks from home to sit with me at the old school. It was just me and him. Although a security guard was there, that didn't stop us from making the school our little sanctuary. We held hands while roaming the dark and vacant building all by ourselves. Our voices echoed through the empty hallway. Our shadows stood like giants hovering over us across the tall beige walls into the ceiling. Whether we were walking the hall, sitting in the auditorium seats, waiting on the front steps, or standing in the school parking lot, we were there. Even though Rashad dropped out of school, he still could have been in the program. I encouraged him to join. It was open to all teenagers, but he wasn't interested. While I hoped that one day he'd change his mind, I had big city dreams. I'm going to college to become a famous reporter and film director, I said confidently. I had it all figured out. I was every bit of 15 years old and had my entire life ahead of me. I knew something great was on its way. God, passion, drive, and dedication would get me there. Rashad never really had much to say when I shared my dreams and goals with him. Even though he said he was proud of me, I could tell that my aspirations bothered him by the dark and far away look in his eyes. I didn't know what it meant, but I didn't look too much into it. Rashad was not like the other boys around me, at my school and in my programs. He had an edge to him that made him more interesting than the others. That's why I liked him so much. Can you backflip? I asked Rashad. We stood in the back of the school building in an empty parking lot. I always liked the cute boy who could backflip. Like most of the boys in the hood, Rashad could do the inherent hood shenanigans. To him, it was a normal thing that kids could do, but to me, he had a special gift. Kind of like one of those things that every bad little boy can do. You know, the ones who flip their eyelids inside out to show the pink flesh and red vessels while chasing and terrorizing all the girls. I was always one of them, running and screaming, "Eee, that's nasty." But knowing if he could backflip was all that I needed to like him even more. "Yeah," he answered, nodding his head. And that's when, right on the spot, he backed up from where he was standing and went into 2 backflips without using his hands to touch the ground. His shirt lifted up over his head, revealing his flat belly and smooth and defined chest. I was falling in love for the very first time. Okay, do you have any questions so far before I move into part 2 of how everything pretty much changes? Any questions? Y'all can type it in too. And I know y'all laughing at the backflip. Yes, I still like a backflip. Okay, so I'm going to move forward to part 2. And this is when a lot changes Thank you so much. This is when a lot changes in the story. So let's see here. Let's go straight to it. My glasses on so I can see better. I don't know why I didn't put these things on. Y'all didn't say nothing. Okay. Rashad and I met at our usual spot, the playground, where he told me stories about being raised in the hood. I was captivated by Rashad's street lifestyle and the stories that he told. We were both artists and shared our art with one another. He would freestyle and rap on the spot for me. He also had journals and notebooks of his lyrics about what he went through and his struggles. "I'm gonna make it out the hood," said Rashad as he looked toward the nighttime sky. "Music is my ticket." I believed him. I knew that he had the potential to make his dreams come true. Rashad just had to keep believing it. Hearing his music reminded me of my own struggles. Although I was what Rashad referred to as sheltered, I still had my own problems that I was dealing with and writing about. I often let him read my poetry in my journal and would read it to him. His songs and my poems brought us closer together. We understood each other in a way that no one else could. When Rashad talked about his childhood, I listened, held his hand, and traveled through the memories with him. Just like the books I read and stories I wrote, I imagined being right there with Rashad as he told his story. The game requires a player. There are guidelines. There are instructions. Even when trying to break the rules, there's still a certain way to do it. It's all a gamble. Your life is the hand. Your freedom is the bet. To be a good criminal, you have to be willing to risk losing everything, but what most criminals fail to realize is that there are no wins, only losses. Due to no fault of his own, Rashad was dealt a bad hand. He followed the blueprint and was on a fast track to a life of crime. He didn't see any way around the streets. It just wasn't in the cards for him. So he learned to roll with the punches and fought to survive, even if it meant destroying everything else around him. Rashad was raised and groomed by the OGs in the hood. And like a mayor, they owned the block and made all the decisions. With a mama on drugs, an absentee father, siblings separated, and no money, the OGs from around the way taught Rashad the ropes. They stood in the doorway entrance of liquor stores and apartment buildings like watch guards ready to bust a cap at anybody who looked at them wrong or had something out of pocket to say. But when the LGs or little gangsters like Rashad walked through the hood, the OGs always had some knowledge to spit with and wisdom to drop for the sole purpose of grooming the next little nigga in the way of the streets. "Maybe one day you'll take my place on this block," said one of the OGs. He stood upright like a tower with broad shoulders, wearing a white thermal black baggy jeans and a gun holster. The OG fiddled with a trusted toothpick in his mouth while looking down at 7-year-old Rashad. Slowly looking from side to side, he spoke as his gold teeth shined under the glow of the street light. "But you gotta be ready, young blood." Rashad listened attentively, taking in everything about the OG that made him a hood hero. His style, his personality, his posture, his talk, everything. Always remember, little nigga," stated the OG. "We survive by any means necessary, you heard me?" He backed away, tapping his fist on his heart as a signal that the conversation was over. His words were a hood mantra. When Rashad was in school, he was always in trouble. Getting sent out of class, to the office, detention, suspension. He was a middle school dropout on his way to prison. So while kids Rashad's age was in school, he was in the streets and on the way to becoming a future criminal, just like all the OGs responsible for making the block hot. Bullying at school made him defend himself. Crime in his neighborhood made him protect himself. For Rashad, there was no other way around criminal behavior. He was a product of the low expectations of the people in his environment. Oh, okay. This book is called When Hip Hop Met Poetry. It was his reality. It was his normal. It was all he knew. There was no escaping it. While Rashad started with little petty crimes, by the age of 12, he had a lengthy record. Pistol whippings, fighting, stealing, robberies, selling drugs, break-ins, stick-ups, carjacking, shootouts, gangbanging, you name it. All stripes that earned him bragging rights. He belonged to the streets and the streets belonged to him. And Rashad wasn't slowing down or stopping for nobody, especially since he was the man of the house and helping care for his younger siblings. He needed money quick, even if it meant selling drugs in his own hood to people he knew. So just as he was taught by the OGs, Rashad and his crew took up the mantle and kept a high supply of what the streets demanded for new and old addicts. Rashad was immune to all that the streets had to offer, and he was unstoppable. On any given day, he and his homies dressed in black bandanas and long white tees while cruising 10 miles an hour around the hood in stolen hot-wired cars with the music turned all the way up. You know the sound. When the beat drops and bass from the speakers vibrate the street before you see a car turn the corner. When windows rattle and foundations shake like they are about to uproot. When everybody and their mama stops what they're doing to turn around and say, who's that? That kind of sound. Driving down the street, you would have thought it was a block party or hood parade as Rashad and his boys drove around the neighborhood while hanging out the windows blasting chart-topping hits. While kids Rashad's age completed homework assignments and anticipated getting selected for the football team, Rashad was preparing to graduate with a one-way ticket to either a grave or prison before the age of 21. It was a badge of honor, a rites of passage, something to be proud of, an airbrush shirt with your name and photo on it, or a news station with your mug posted on the screen for doing what you needed to do when you needed to do it. Whether 6 feet in the ground or behind bars, and whether dead or alive, Rashad had his mind made up about who he was and what his future held. A life of drugs and money was all that he really needed to accomplish the task. Well, that was until he got busted for selling to an undercover narcotics cop. At 12 years old, he was arrested and sent to a detention center and boot camp for delinquent youth to help straighten them out. The path to becoming a criminal always leads to failure. There are no wins. Rashad was about to find out just how hard he could lose. So that is the perspective of a narrator telling the story about what Rashad was going through. That was like the experience. Actually, when I wrote that chapter, because I know the character so well, the actual person, I was able to write from that experience. And I wanted to make sure that the description fit what a lot of young black men sometimes see if they are raised in the hood. Some of the images that you see, I wanted to kind of be descriptive and really reflect that. So that was the background of Rashad, and it kind of gives you a sense of who he was as a character, who he is as a person. Okay, I'm going to skip through, and we're going to go into, okay. I don't know who said it first, but we both agreed that it was the only way that we could be connected forever. We figured that if we had a baby, our families would have no other choice but to accept us. So we made a decision, interlocked our pinkies, and a kiss sealed the promise to make our peace treaty. So as you can tell, there's some things that are changing in the relationship. They're making a decision as young teenagers who are in love, and they make a really hard decision, and it was not the best decision, but that's the decision that they made. After Mama knew that I was pregnant and Rashad was the father, the lecture started. Everyone talked at us. My mama's, uncles, aunts, boyfriends, father figures from church and teachers. Lord knows everybody tried to give us some kind of unwanted advice. It was no surprise that Rashad always got the third degree from everybody who thought he wasn't the best choice for me to have a child with, since he was a middle school dropout and juvenile delinquent. Anytime Rashad did or said something inappropriate or questionable, Mama was always quick to remind him, "We don't need you. We can raise the baby without you." Mama was always the protective type, but now that I was pregnant, she was stricter than ever before. School was another place where adults shared their opinion about my pregnancy. You can finish at a high school that helps teen mothers get their diploma while learning about their unborn child, explained one of my teachers. I appreciated the fact that the school was an option, but no matter what they said and how they dressed it up, I was not leaving my high school to go there, period, point blank, end of the story. I was already a senior in my last semester of school and about to graduate. Plus, I was taking a baby class that taught me everything I needed to know about starting a family. I didn't need to go to a different school, and I made that very clear to my teachers by showing them that a teenager who was pregnant could still maintain a high GPA and remain committed to school clubs, after-school programs, and community-based youth programs that would grant me a full scholarship to college. Pregnancy didn't hinder me from accomplishing my goals. I was unstoppable. I wasn't going to let anyone discourage me from achieving any of my dreams. I started strong. I was going to finish strong. I was in it to win it, pregnant or not. So it kind of moves forward into when I actually decided to have a baby, and I was pregnant at the time. Okay, I was in the 12th grade, and I was at DuPont Manual High School. So I'm going to move forward, and These last two chapters kind of give you a sense of exactly, what was going on at the time and how our relationship really changed. Okay. And this is I think I'm going to read two more small chapters, and then we'll open it up to some questions if y'all have any questions. Although Rashad promised that he would get out of the drug game, he continued to make moves in the streets. He didn't stop selling drugs like I wanted, but he slowed down his street hustle and got a legitimate job. With his new income, he took on more financial responsibility as a father and partner for our growing family. However, while Rashad was on a financial come-up, he was still battling with demons. We were getting into more arguments that mostly centered around cheating accusations against me that were based on his personal insecurities. I always reassured him of my love and that I wasn't going anywhere, but he never believed me. His demons were most visible during celebratory times, behind closed doors and in the public eye. There was a change in Rashad. He was becoming controlling, aggressive, and violent. I didn't know what to make of it, but I hoped things would get better. Only time would tell. So as you can tell, there are some things that I'm starting to notice about the relationship. Hey, Attica. Oh, so I have a few questions. Okay, one question is, somebody said that they can relate to the hood life. So yeah, a lot of kids are going through that. A lot of people go through it of all ages, and it's out there. And so I'm thankful that you are able to relate to it and that you actually recovered from that and you moved from that. So I'm thankful that you even mentioned it. And then I have another question. Is this your life or made up? This is a true story. This is about my life when I was a teenager from 13 to 19 years old. This is a true story. I didn't tell the story for a very long time. I just published the book back last May of 2019. It has a song and a short film. And for a long time, I didn't tell the story because I just wasn't ready. I was still healing. I'm still healing today. It's a journey. But finally, I felt comfortable enough to tell the story because I want to be able to help somebody. I know that I didn't go through the experience to keep it inside and to keep the learning experiences inside and keep it to myself. I know that it can help other people, and that's why I wrote the book and I published the book so that I could help other people. So that's a great question. If you have any other questions too, you can type them in and then I'll answer them. Okay. I'm going to skip through to these last two chapters. Well, not last two chapters of the book, but last two that I'm going to read up today. Let's see here. Oh, how can you purchase the book? You can purchase the book through www.honeytreepublishingus.com. You can also purchase through Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Okay, so that's how you can purchase it. And then you can always just reach out to me. I'm easy to contact, and I'll be able to deliver the book to you. Okay, so this is the last couple of chapters that I'm going to finish off, and then I'll open it up for some questions. In a span of 3 months, when I was 18 years old, I had lost Nadia, moved out of mama's house, rented an apartment, and went off to college. Everything happened so fast. My first apartment was a Gothic gray stone building. Every type of person lived in this complex. School dropouts, college students, single mothers, married couples, prostitutes, and drug dealers. I grew up hearing how hard it was to be an adult. Enjoy your childhood while you can, I'd often hear people say. And they weren't playing about that either. When I moved out of mama's house, I learned the true meaning of being grown. It was definitely more than turning 18 and leaving your mama's house. Being a grown-up meant that I had bills to pay and responsibilities to handle on my own. However, I still enjoyed all the perks of having my own place. I decorated my apartment like an art gallery with colorful pictures and minimal furniture to complement the glass French doors and mahogany wood floors that were polished so well that you could see your reflection. I needed a living space that could help inspire my writing and creative expression again, especially since me and Rashad's relationship was taking an abrupt turn for the worst. He seemed different, but I just couldn't put my finger on it. The fire between Rashad and I burned strong and long, but I had yet to feel its flames. I hadn't seen how large it could grow. Just with one spark, the fire became massive and overpowering. It burned down everything, leaving damage, rubbish, and ash behind. I couldn't let it consume me. I had to extinguish it. It was a matter of life or death. We were wrapped up in each other, but he just wouldn't let me go. And then I'm going to finish with this last part. My heart was leading me to places that I never thought I would find myself in. I was utterly lost, and my own reflection was unrecognizable. Everyone, including Mama, gave me advice about leaving Rashad, but I didn't listen. He ain't no good, said Mama. You can do better and I want better for you. I just don't understand why you with him. I heard Mama's voice, but I wasn't listening. My mind was somewhere far away. I didn't think Mama understood what I was going through, but little did I know, her age brought maturity and wisdom through experience that people my age just didn't possess. I should have listened to Mama when she was telling me things. I was just too stubborn to do so. This ain't my first rodeo, explained Mama. I've been around the block a few times, and a zebra can't change its stripes, baby. No matter how much Mama or anybody else tried to talk some sense into me, I thought I was in love. I guess love can sometimes be blind if you choose to keep your eyes closed. So that is a part of my book. I hope you all enjoyed my selections of When Hip Hop Met Poetry and Urban Love Story, which is a memoir. I see someone has written, insecurities can encourage anger. Unfortunately, yes, it can. And it definitely did with character Rashad. And also just the insecurities that I had to even stay in the relationship that was toxic and that was unhealthy. So this book talks about teenage pregnancy. It talks about relationships with parents. It talks about incarceration and flashbacks to experiences that I went through as a young child when, I was seeing certain things in my mother's and my father's relationship that, ended up being something that I looked to as qualities to look for in a man, and some of those qualities were unhealthy. So it flashbacks into those different experiences, and it really just covers a lot of the healing that I went through, and then also just the forgiveness piece of being able to heal from telling your story, writing your story. I have diary entries in this book as well throughout my teenage years that really reflects on the time that I was in, that I'm writing about. So that's just a little bit about the book, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Hey G, I see that you have joined us. It's so good to see that you're on here. Do you all have any questions for me? The book again is When Hip Hop Met Poetry. It does have the movie and the short film. The film will premiere tomorrow on YouTube, and my YouTube link is actually in my the link is in my bio on Instagram. So it's easy to find it, and the trailer is already up. So it'll be premiering tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I hope you all enjoyed the reading. G, I'm doing very well. How are you? I hope you all enjoyed this reading. And if y'all have any questions, are there any questions? I just wanted to leave it open. I do author visits. I go to a lot of schools. I go to community centers, and I share my story. And let's see, how long did it take you to write the book? I started writing this book when I was 18 years old. I was a freshman in college. I wrote the first 3 chapters when I was 18, and then that's when I went to college. I just kind of laid the book down and stopped writing on it because I was a student in school, in college. And recently, November of 2018, I went back to my old computer and I was like, I need to finish that book because I haven't told the story. I always end with, she overcame obstacles, she fought adversity, she beat the odds. That was typically how I would end. That was the way that I would talk about the experience, and I would end any kind of potential question about my past. So that's what I did. So yeah, it took me from November of 2018 until May 19th of 2019 to write the book. So that's how long it took for me to finish it. And then let's see, I have some other questions. Let's see here. Let's see. Thank you for saying that you enjoyed the book. I'm so glad that you enjoyed it. Let's see. Hold on. It says, I would like you to be my biographer. I want to get my story out there. I would love to be a biographer. I do ghostwriting. I do have clients. I have published other books for other people, other authors. So if you are interested in writing and publishing your book, that's a great question or a great comment to add, because I do have clients, and I am working with one particular client. My second client, he's actually writing a memoir. And my first client, which is Dr. Angel Jackson, she actually has written a memoir and published through Honeytree Publishing also. So yes, I do ghostwriting, and I help publish other people's books. So if you're interested, definitely reach out to me, and I will send you some information. We can talk about your book. And then I have another question. It says, how do you deal with remembering negative memories? So it was very difficult to write this book and still to read it out loud, because it's, the story is true, and it's a very vulnerable story because it talks about, experiences that were very difficult for me. I continue to write. I pray, I meditate. I know that my story is bigger than what I went through, and that it was for me to be able to help somebody else. So that's been my journey of healing through telling the story, of knowing that this is not just my story, but other people out there have experienced similar traumas. Some people who, have never told their story, and I want to be an example, a reason to, be able to help other people tell their story. So praying, writing consistently, going to those areas that have been very difficult, going into those areas of my past, looking at pictures, going to the actual places, because in the film, that's what every location that happens in here, mostly every location, some of the main locations were shot and filmed in those areas. I wanted to make sure that I was telling, an authentic, transparent story about my life. And so I wanted to go back into those places, which was very difficult. But I felt as though in order for me to close the chapter, to close that chapter of my book and to continue to move forward, I needed to go back into those places. Okay. I'm having a request from my mother, and I'm going to join. I'm going to add her to my live. So let me go ahead and view this. And this is my mom. I'm waiting for her to come on the screen. Hey, Mama.
Sorry, I'm going to get off of here. I don't know how that happened. Love you.
Oh, I love you too. Did you want to add something? Did you want to add something? Did you want to say something about the book? Actually, it might be something good.
No, you always set yourself free when you forgive and let go and move forward. Because the window in front of you is bigger than the window behind you. And you have to move forward. You have to let go. Pray for people that are having those type of parts. It's your story, and I'm not going to steal time from you, but I'm very proud of you.
Thank you, Mama. What would you tell to young people who, might be going through what I was going through when I was a teenager? Like, what would you tell them, and what would you recommend for their parents?
A lot of times you have to tell other people the same thing you want to say, because a lot of times kids don't hear you, they hear other people. And you could tell them the same thing, but let someone else say it to them, and for some reason they hear it a lot better. But I just knew that, one thing they told me, they said you were doing good in school, you were, involved in a lot of activities, and you were a straight A student. I said, but this is still happening, But they, I listened and I prayed. I had a praying family and friends, behind us. And as you know, there's a lot of people that help you, not only me, but God and other people that help you the person that you are today. And I'm glad.
Thank you, Mom.
Just be, parents, be patient with your children. Listen to them, give them time. Don't be so judgmental. Don't run them off. Even if they do something that is something that you've never done in your life, don't judge them, because one day they're going to come back home. One day they will.
Yeah, and I always love what you. Thank you, Mama. Thank you. I love you. And I know one lesson that you taught me so many lessons, but I know that there's one that really resonates with me and with a lot of other young people who I teach, and that is the door is never closed. That you always have a home to come back to. And that's what I always appreciate. And I think that most people should always think like that. I know a lot of times they're ready to get kids out of them, and like, no, allow build a relationship with your children, build a relationship with your family, it's don't push them away. Don't push them away. Don't be so ready to get them out of the house. Actually be there and be nurturing and be loving and be understanding and non-judgmental, as you said, Mom.
That's right. And I always said that I wanted you to always make sure that you gave back and always shared the situation that you went through with other young people, because a lot of times it's hard for a young person to relate to an older person. They don't know what to say because sometimes everything they say, they're being corrected. So a lot of times listen to them, because there's something that we can learn from young people too. I learn it every day, from young people that I work with, people that customers, and just everyday people from you and your brother. I'm constantly learning. I learned not to be judgmental, and got that from my mother, my father, and my grandparents, that you never throw it away. Everybody done been through something, but never writes their story. Not like the way you've done it. And I'm so proud of you. And you're welcome. And, parents, don't give up on your children. Don't compare them to other people. Just always let them know that they're great. There's greatness inside. And a lot of times when we criticize or we say, why did you do that? What are you saying that for? A lot of times when you do that, it just beats them down even more. And and then they want to close up. So you want to keep communications open, and you want to, I believe, right? So pray and just never give up, never close your door on them, and never throw them away. And love never dies. Love is deeper than the grave. And I'm not going to steal any more of your time. Actually, I don't even know how I got on this.
You can't write it on Mom. As always.
I can't believe it. I love you, and I'm ready to get off here.
Okay, I love you too. Thank you, Mom, for your advice and your presence. I love you.
I love you too. Everybody stay safe out there.
Yes, y'all. Stay safe.
This shall pass.
Yes, it will. All right, I love you, Mom.
I love you too. Proud of you. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, Kate. Bye-bye. All right, y'all. Well, y'all heard it from my own mom, okay? I would not have been able to get through this without her and without God and without family, a strong, God-loving family. So I'm appreciative that I've been able to share my story. We all have something that we can share, that we can teach, that we can give to this world. We are all contributors. We are all producers. So, I highly recommend, write your story. Take 30 minutes a day to write a story, to write about your story, to write your book. At that point, you will have 365 pages. If you do one page a day, 365 pages, pretty much at the end of the year. Okay. So that's a really good, type of goal to set for yourself if you are interested in writing a book. But I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for joining. I hope that you all were able to, learn from the story and just be blessed by it. I'm thankful that you all are here, and I ask that you just continue to, be there, support. I'm supporting you. We all support one another. We're a large community, and we are only strong with each other. So thank you so much. And I hope y'all have a blessed day and be very safe out there. See y'all later. Bye. And I hope y'all check out the world premiere tomorrow. Again, 7 p.m. on YouTube. You can check my link in the bio, and you will be able to see the trailer as well as the short film. Thank y'all so much, and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.